Okay, so now what we've got to do, looking at this here, is we've got to get 4 M5 nuts. Put them in here, and these parts.
Hey, thanks for tuning in, guys and gals. I hope you're enjoying this. Please like, subscribe, and tell all your mates. Cheers, Westy over and out.
And then these here, so if we orientate these the correct way around, so that's got to go that way. These have to go like so. That goes like that, and it looks like it goes this way towards these holes here. So basically you've got to hold the nut in place, and then line up your screw holes. So they're 3 by 8, so I've got 3 of those here. Should be the same size screwdriver. No, it's a smaller one, this one. Oh no, it's this one here. Okay, so just carefully hold that in place so the nut doesn't drop through. Just get it started. Nip them all up just lightly. And just tighten them. They're only plastic parts, so don't over stress it, so otherwise you'll crack the component. So that's one done. So I might as well these look like they're all mirrored. So I'd say some go the other way. Three more screws.
Thank you for watching this channel. If you do enjoy what you see, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell to see any new stuff coming through. Any ideas, please put the comments below and I'll crack into it.
Oh, what's going on here? Let's get these lined up. What's going on here? Doesn't seem. There we go. Just didn't seem to line up there. Make sure your belt's clear.
It's right about here I discovered that the two housings are actually incorrectly assembled. So if you have a look, when am I going to show it? Hang on a second. Oh yeah, there, right there on that face there, there's 2 bolts missing, and this is when I discover it. So just be careful that those 2 housings have 3 of the
That's weird.
brass screws coming through. I'll show you shortly.
I've got these 2 mixed up. That was just lucky that I've got those 2 lined up. So this one here needs to go on to this housing, and vice versa. Wow. I didn't even notice. So I've got to undo these. So yeah, just be careful of that. That was just luck, I think, that I got those ones right. These ones. I was like, that's weird. It's only got 1 hole, and this one here's actually proud a little bit. I need to sink that one in a little bit. So I've got to come back and stick that one in. But you get the gist of it.
So I'll just quickly rectify this problem and get it sorted so that we can carry on with the rest of the build. So apologies for that, guys, but hey, you live and learn. All warts and all, eh? Cheers. Apologies for it being out of shot. I didn't realise that the camera had dropped down. So I'm just doing the dropping that heatsink that I was talking about, a couple that were a bit proud there. So we'll quickly get this back together for you and we will carry on with the build. So that's the Z drive power transmission units done. So the Z drives themselves are actually the motors and the brackets, which are over here, and we're going to get into those very shortly. So we'll attach those brackets to the Z drive motors and carry on from there. Okay, so now we're going to start working on the Z drives themselves. So I'm just going to do a narrative over because my sounds kind of failed on the video. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to unscrew these scrub screws a little bit, find the right tool for the job, and we're going to back those two grub screws out a couple of turns each, and then apply the thread lock. So we just back them at about 2 turns, so you've got about 2 turns of thread coming out from the I'll just zoom in a little bit so we can get a better look for you. Just basically screw each one out 2 turns, just so we can get some thread lock on them. So now we're just going to dip our screwdriver flat blade with some thread lock and just dab it and let capillary action take the thread lock into the thread itself. This saves having to remove all of the grub screws and also potentially losing some. So now we're going to use the special printed tool that you get with your printed forward parts or your functional parts kit that you purchase separately. So it's got Z, B and A, etc. So I'm just going to line this up with the A, with the Z section. Make sure that your grub screws in the groove of the flat on the shaft. So there it is, lined up with the Z. There's 2 methods of doing this. One is if you haven't got the plastic piece, you can do the measurement of 10.7 millimeters from the face of the motor to the inside of the shaft, or you can use the pre-printed guide that's got like Z, B, A and E on it. So just make sure that you hold that bracket on the right hand side. It's not going to matter so much on the Z, but definitely with the B you're going to have a problem, because one side of the measurement from the tongue with the B on it is longer than the other. So, but we'll get into that mistake I made later. We'll just speed this bit up so that we don't bore you too much. Pretty much rinse and repeat the first one. So now we're going to start working on the brackets for the Z motors. So just make sure the orientation of the little L part of the bracket that goes vertically with the mounting plate on the down like that. So you've got to make sure that your motor is orientated so that the actual wire inputs are coming out on the same side as it rises up. Just like that. And they're mirrored too, so there's two like that and there's two on the opposite side. So it doesn't actually mention it, but I basically, we'll find out later whether I'm correct or not, but I've just matched the other ones that were on the L coming up on the right side. I've matched it up so that these the inputs match the same as the other side, so they're basically facing towards excuse me, the risen up part of that bracket. So anyway, we'll just fast forward quickly. Okay, so now what I'm doing, I'm rustling around in the bags, which you can't see in the shot, and I'm just going to grab the Z drive transmission units, and we're going to put the feet on those. It's up to you whether you want to. I basically did this because that way I've got them screwed and I can't lose the screws basically. Yes, I'm going to have to take them off when I mount them onto the frame, but that's a 10-second job. So this way all the parts are together, and it just kind of looks a bit more finished than it is, but yeah, anyway. So just the washers actually fold down under the pressure, so there's nothing in the manual about what sort of tension to do that to, so I'm not sure. It just says it actually doesn't mention anything about that at all in the manual. I'm just having a look through the manual now on my other screen while we're watching that. But yeah, there's no mention of how tight you do the rubber foot. It's a 5x16 button head screw. But it doesn't actually tell you, it doesn't warn you about over tightening, it just, yeah. So that's on page 45 is the assembly of that foot. If you do like these videos, please like them, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, just smash that like button. Tell your friends about it, so just to keep me going, and I really appreciate the feedback and any improvements that you want to see or anything that you want to cover, please let me know, and I'd love to just do another video for you. Cheers. Now we're moving on to the Z idlers. So yes, that is definitely a frown coming on those two bolts on the top there. It's actually really cool. So there's one thing that's important about this that I've made a note of there on the right side there is that screw is going, the M5 by 30 button head screw is actually screwing into plastic. There's no brass insert or anything in there. So when you tighten that up, don't over tighten it. It's just to hold the idler. It's just an axle for the idler. So just put it in, button it up just to touch the face, and then screw it 90 degrees. So I'm just going to organise a few bits and pieces for this next part. So yeah, I'm just really sorting out a few bits and pieces. So the actual bolt kit is really quite good because, and what I did is I actually, that piece of paper you see on the lid there, that was actually facing the other way, so when it was closed, you could look at it, but I basically put it on that way so you could see it, so makes a bit of difference. So I'm just grabbing the bag of parts, which is pages 48 to 81. I believe this bag is. It's really well organised, the printed forward bags. You basically, at least you haven't got 2,000 parts that you're trying to sort through. It's you've just got 20 to 30 components. Makes it a lot easier to see what you're doing because there's a big pile when you look at 200 parts stacked up. So this is a good way of organising it all. It's good practice to run with the manual next to yourself as well. All my years as a automotive engineer and other practices and trades that I've been involved with, it's definitely always, even if you know what you're doing, it's handy to have just beside you, just to basically roll through with it, and it's just to give you pointers and reminders along the way. So it's really good if you're assembling anything, not just these 3D printers, but anything at all. I always, I'm not that guy that's putting the tin shed together that's got 1,000 parts on the ground trying to figure out why it doesn't go together because he hasn't read the manual until the end. So no, I'm the other way around. I like to understand what I'm trying to get through before I start, because it makes it just go a lot smoother. What I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to figure out in the middle part of that manual right there how that nut goes into the bolt, because it's not too, it just looks like it's held in the middle of nowhere. So, but what it does, it sits in the top of the piece that you can see in my hand now, and I'm just going to push that down into the groove, and then that nut goes up through the football post looking thing, and then goes up and screws that into place from the bottom. as you can see on page 48, or just at the close-up there, the axle actually goes in a particular way. So the little notch on the left-hand side of this face up there, you put the bolt in from the opposite side to that. So each one's different. So there's two the same and two the other way. So I think it's so that when you install it, because that little notch on the left-hand side of his head, that on the idler, is that slots into the 20 by 20 frame. So it makes sense that when you push it in against the frame, that bolt is something that you could see. So you would want the nice side looking towards you rather than so that's how that works. So basically you do have to thread it through all the way, so it's got to go right through one side and the other side, because of the ABS is printed both the same side, so it hasn't got a slip fit on one side and a thread on the other. So basically, to do it up, all you need to do is butt up the button head screw, just touch it to it and turn it 90 degrees. So once it touches the face, turn it 90 degrees like that, and that's it. You shouldn't need to do any more, because it's just an axle. It's just got like loading on it from the bearings will tackle the load. So we'll just do a rinse and repeat with the other ones and get this moving along. So I've decided to put the spring Z to the idlers. I'm going to put the spring loaded T pieces that go into the frame. I can't remember what they're called off the top of my head actually. What are those things called? T-nuts. Yeah, spring loaded T-nuts. So I'm going to put that into there so I don't lose it later on. So now we're moving on to the A and B drives and idlers. So the idlers are the ones at the front and the drives are the ones at the back. So we'll just pack up our Z idlers and put them back in a plastic bag so that we don't lose any parts and are all together. So now we're going to move and get all these components sorted out for the A and B drives. Just trying to figure it all out, but basically the right drive has the big notch in it, and it's actually that arrow there now is pointing to the A drive, even though it's on the right hand side. You'd think it would be A and B left and right, but it's not. So the A drive is on the right hand side at the rear, and the B drive is at the left hand side at the rear. So looks like we're going to try and figure out the idlers instead. So we'll go to the A and B drive problem later. I think that's what I've decided there. So yeah, so we're going to carry on and do the front idlers for the A and B drives. And these are different parts as well. So I'll just grab a snapshot of that. Okay, we need a couple of 5mm nuts to go into the red pieces there, and they'll slot in there. this bolt's just put in there temporarily until the system is together, and then it gets pushed out, and the bolt comes in through the top. So it's a placeholder for all the shims and bearings for the idler. So it can be tricky putting that in. Actually, I did it the first time, but then I realised I'd mucked it up, and then it took me 3 goes, which you'll see in a moment. Another thing to be careful of and to watch out for is that the 2 halves actually have a male and female portion. So there's a male tongue coming out of the housing right there. Not the whole, that piece there. And then that male piece with the little piece there sits inside it at the top. So the faces should be together when you put the 2 halves together. If they're apart, you know you've got them wrong. Same again there. It's got the male piece. It's different again. It's the main piece has got the opposite way around, so you can mix them up. And there's a reason behind that. They're set up differently. It was designed that way so you couldn't mix them up. So if the housings don't butt up together, you know that you haven't quite got it right. Now this is the tricky part. So you drop the nut in. And you've got to make sure the orientation of this component is right as well, because it lines up with the hole on the black body, and the bolt goes through, right through it, screws through it, and lines up with that hole, which I will show you in a moment. Yeah, so that brass piece, the nut's just fallen out, but it's a bit tricky to do. I think I don't worry about the nut until the end, but that brass piece that you just saw back there actually lines up with a hole that's bored into the housing but doesn't go quite right the way through. It's for the adjusting bolt. So you've got to hold that up vertically, otherwise all the parts fall out. So it's not going to work that way. It's just a shame I've got the camera zoomed in too far. Okay, so I've dropped the bolt out, holding it up vertically, trying not to move those components within it, because the shim will move, either the top or the bottom, or one of the bearings will. It just makes it very difficult. Just kind of hold your tongue on one side and nurse it in there. Might take you a few goes to get it. Okay, so that's finally got the idlers in, but as you can see, I've got them around the wrong way. I've got the two bearings actually on top of each other, so I've got to pull that apart again. Okay, these are the adjusters. So what you do is you screw them in so they actually, so you screw it all the way through. Part of this will be an alignment of the brass inset that's not quite right, but it's straight, it works. So basically you screw that screw through and pull back towards my hand with that red part, and that's the 0 position, and then you can if you watch, you'll see what I mean. Yeah, so I'm backing it off and pulling it back towards the black part, and then screwing it in until it just moves, and that's pretty much backed right off. And so you do the same. So it's designed to screw and pull back towards the bolt head to tighten it up. So if you have a look, my finger is actually wedged in between the red part and the black part, and it's so that I can feel when this red part starts moving down towards the bolt as the tension comes on. You can feel it closing up between the skin of your finger, and that's adjusted. So just doing an inspection of the components now. So this one looks pretty good. Looking at the bearings in there, Yep, the flanges are to the outside on each side there, where the arrow's pointing. Yep, that's fine. It's got a shim each side. The belt can run through there. This one, no, not so. No, that's not right. I'm about to figure that out. So that's incorrect. The flanges actually, one's on the outside and one's on the inside, so kind of like you can't get the belt in there. So it's time to pull it apart, and we have to fix that problem obviously, which is I guess while we check our work, yeah? That's better. Now the flanges are to the outside, so we are good. But the washer kept slipping out and I couldn't get it through, so we'll have one last go. Done. This took me 3 goes to do that one, so just be patient with it. And just don't fight it if it's not working for you. Pull it apart again and do it again. So yeah, 3 turns before I got it to work. So now we're going to start working on the A drive. I'm just having a final check there before we move on to that moment. Just double inspecting them, making sure they're all good. Cool. I think I'm happy with that. So now we move on to the A drives. So the A drive top part is the one with the slot in it and the cutout in it. This is the A drive part here. It's got the slot cut in it as shown on page 73, and it's got the 2 bronze inserts, brass inserts there. That is your A drive, which goes on your right hand side at the rear. So now we're just going to start gathering some parts. And we need 2 M5 by 30 button head screws. And they go in these 2 locations here. And then you flip over the unit. Now we turn to page 74 and we'll see there's a whole lot of shims and flange bearings, the F695 bearings to install. So I've just got that sitting up on the right hand side there just for reference. If you want to, you can go back to the beginning of this little part and just pause on the big picture if you can't quite see that. And just build it as it shows it. So going back to page 74, what we need to do is find the other piece that has that big slot cut in it, in the dark blue on the right side there, like that one there on the left there down on the bottom. Yep. So that's got there's only 2 that have the slots in it, like that big slot there that I'm showing you there. And so that's designed to sit on top of the other component, and then you flip it over and do it up. So it's quite an ingenious design, really. So again, this is going to be screwed into plastic, so there's no inserts for this part. So there's no need to crank it up to 1,000,000 foot-pounds of torque.
because it is screwing just straight into the plastic, you just basically do it like it's been saying all along. Screw it till the face touches the head of the screw or bolt, and then turn it 90 degrees, and that's enough. Check to make sure that all your spaces and bearings are all correctly orientated, and you can double check against the picture in page 74. All looking good, everything's all looking pretty sweet there. So now we're going to put the other assembly together onto the B drive. So we'll do the actual motors after we've assembled the other assembly, the B drive assembly. So if we move to page 77, we can now see this is the B drive unit. So as you can see, there's no slot in the very top part of the housing to the right of that bolt, which is the biggest difference between the two. So remember, this drive here goes in the left rear of the frame. So I'll bring the picture back into focus. So we have the two bolts, the same as before, the M5 by 30 button heads, and then you have the serrated tang to the left lower corner. And then put the bolts in, flip it upside down, and then we move over to page 78.
Now we move on to the A and B drives. So A is on 75 and B is on 79. So the two motors are there. The A and B drives and the idlers are on layer 4 of the MPX kit. One thing to note on these A and B drives is that one of those drive gears is flipped over. So one has got the drive teeth towards the end of the shaft, the other one's got it turned down towards the base of the motor itself. So they're orientated opposite to each other. So we're going to do our Loctite trick again. We're going to screw these screws out a couple of turns. Find the right screwdriver, find the right hex driver, and basically we're going to turn these out the same as we did with the Z drives. Wind them out a couple of turns and then dab it with the thread lock and then set it up. Just setting the A drive clearance, so you just sit the tool on the base and then set up your gear so that it slots in and fits into the groove there of the drive where the belt runs, and then just nip that up and then recheck it once you're done. Note that the A drive has got the drive cogs facing away from facing towards the end of the shaft, and the B drive is completely the opposite. It actually has not like that. It's the other way around, which I'll figure out very shortly. Start looking at my plans and go, oh, hang on, it's upside down. There you go, turn it around, that's the one, good stuff, that's the one, that's the way it goes. So B drive has the teeth in towards the motor, there we go. Yeah, so just be careful of that. One important thing to note on the B drive is the tool. Make sure that you have it with the little hole facing down, because you can put that in both ways, that tool. As you can see, I've actually put it in the incorrect way with the hole at the top. So you need to do it the opposite way that I'm showing there. Now we're going to assemble the A drive. Just make sure the orientation of the wires is facing the correct way. So you should have the serrated belts, plastic piece at the top should be on the right hand side, and your input wire should be on the left hand side, as you can see underneath my thumb there.